What's going on? Good evening, everybody. This is yours truly, Jasmine D. Millhouse, and I am back here on the National Entrepreneur Month show. But I gotta kind of, let you in on a little secret. Tonight is gonna be a twist for the best. All right. So, not to necessarily have an entrepreneur on the show, but he might be an entrepreneur. He might shock me because he keep a lot of well kept secrets, going on. He be doing stuff you don't even know nothing about. So tonight I'm excited about the person I'm going to be interviewing. I have known this gentleman. When I say my whole life, I literally mean my whole life. Like grew up together, played together, fought together, graduated together, and now we are in adulthood. We have kids, we have spouses, our own, things that we're going on that we have going on. I am interviewing none other than Pastor Horace Holloway. I'm so super excited about this interview tonight. Before I get into his bio, let me know where you're watching from. Let me know in the comments. Let me know that you're watching. I'm excited to have you here. I think he okay, we're just I'm gonna go through the introductions. Okay, again, I am yours truly, Jasmine D. Millhouse, for you all that do not know me, and I am the CEO of Purpose to Fly, where I help you tackle your obstacles and oppositions to reconcile your self-love through dating strategies and personal coaching. And I also have a National Entrepreneur Month platform where I speak with different entrepreneurs on their different journeys in their walks of life to get their perspective on how they got to where they are right now. Because there are a lot of people in the world that are starting businesses, that are currently in business, that have been in business, that may have questions, people that are on their ministry journey that may have questions as well. People may want to know the calling on their lives or how to figure out what the purpose is. I interview different people in order to give you a different view on people in different journeys, entrepreneurship, ministry, anything that you can think of. I like to bring it to the forefront so you can see that you have the ability to do whatever you set your mind to. It doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you grew up in, your background, all of that does not matter. You have the ability to turn your life around, to make a change for the better. And I bring people here that show you that they have done the exact same thing. All right. Now I know you've heard enough from me. Let me go ahead and get into this bio. Okay. Pastor Horace Holloway, right? The third. Okay, let me get that. Let me clear that up. Okay. Y'all, he back here. He in his background. He's stewing, y'all. Pastor Horace Holloway was born August the 24th, 1985, to the parentage of Carol Holt Holloway and the late Deacon Horace Holloway Jr. And he is the youngest of three children. And he the only boy, y'all. So he was spoiled, right? All right. Growing up in DeSoto, Georgia, Horace obtained his spiritual development in the Zion Hill Baptist Church, where he served in several auxiliaries, including youth choir, youth ushers, youth Sunday school teacher, and many more. Horace also served as a minister of music. There was always a uniqueness and something special about Horace as he grew within the church. Horace is a 2003 graduate of the Sumter County Comprehensive High School in Americus, Georgia. Yeah, I had to emphasize that because so am I. Shout out to Class '03. I hope y'all are tuning in, watching this. He continued his undergraduate studies at the Albany State University, where he earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Management. While in college, Horace marched in the infamous ASU marching show Ram show band, became a member of the Kappa Kappa Psi National Honorary Band fraternity, and also became a brother of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. In 2005, Pastor Holloway acknowledged the call on his life to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and preached his initial sermon September 19th, 2005, entitled The Steps of a Good Man. The Lord has blessed Pastor Holloway to serve in the capacity of pastor for the last 11 years. Souls have been saved, deliverance has taken place, and lives have been changed. He is the pastor of Zion Hope Baptist Church in Americus, Georgia. The mission of ministry is to serve the community, equip the saints, and develop disciplined disciples. It's the place where hope and faith connects. Pastor Holloway is also married to his college sweetheart, Mrs. Camilla Holloway, formerly of Camilla, Georgia. Together, they have three beautiful, energetic children: Horace Holloway the fourth, Chloe Noel, and Kristen Naomi. Now, I done read that magnificent bio, so y'all know I got to go ahead and bring them on in here, right? So I give you none other than Pastor Horace Holloway. How
Good
you doing, sir?
evening. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. You all right over there?
I'm doing well. I'm I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity.
I'm excited about today, sir. I really am. I want, just like I was saying in the introduction, I wanted to do my fourth annual National Entrepreneur Month that I do every single month in November. I wanted to do something different. Because it's one thing to have a lot of entrepreneurs, but we have people out here that are looking for direction, and not only just entrepreneurship, but in life in general. And now I feel is the time that we must have ways to show people, especially in our generation, that you don't have to always look, in a blind spot or in a dark spot and thinking you're in this by yourself, or you can achieve or accomplish anything that you don't set your mind to. So I had to switch it up a little bit and go home and go back to the home team, and let everybody know that if I can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Certainly you have the ability and capability to accomplish and achieve anything you set your heart and your mind to. As long as your faith lines up with your belief, you can definitely put your foot to action and get the job done. So
Absolutely.
my first question to you, sir, is how do well no, let me take that back. How do you define who Horace Holloway the third is?
That's a good question. To me, he is a charismatic individual, one who enjoys making people laugh, sense of humor, a love for people, all mankind. He is a person that has learned how to develop balance in life through those highs and lows, and a person that loves God. Family, I enjoy, shopping, things of that nature. But that's Horace in a nutshell. Just one who has grown to truly just love who God is, but also maintain a place of balance to appreciate the things that God has placed around me to enjoy as well.
Mm, you better come on and be all therapeutic with your little message over here. Okay. Look, let me tell you, look, let me disclaimer. All right, y'all, cause he'll bust a message out real quick. You better have something to write with and something to write it down with, cause he gonna be dropping some wisdom on you, okay?
Oh, wow.
We young, but we're wise, all right? So
And
make sure you are prepared to take down these notes, okay? So in becoming Pastor Horace Holloway, what was that journey like for you?
honestly, it was very nerve wracking, to be honest. You're looking at a young man who was in college at the time when I acknowledged the call of God on my life into ministry. And to be honest, I was at a place where I'm like, no, God, not right now. I'm in college. I attend a HBCU, having one of the most magnificent times of my life, meeting new people. Not right now. Can you wait till I finish? you know, but I remember going to my sister's house that summer um, in Leslie, the PJs in Leslie, and I locked up in a room for a week, and I fasted, and I prayed. Because of this tug and because of this unction that I had, that God was calling me into the ministry at that time. Um, I asked for a specific sign. I
Mm,
truly did. I asked God for a specific sign, and I got it. The first day that I got it, I was scared. So I went back and I asked him for the same sign again, to say, if that was you, let me hear it again. And I heard it. And I remember being so afraid that I wrote my dad a 5-page letter, telling him that I had been called by God into the ministry. It wasn't a surprise to him. I remember being 5 years old, at the house, growing up, and I had a conversation with him, that the Lord had called me and told me that I would be a preacher. But as I said, at the time, I was like, God, you can't wait a couple more years. I'll be
right.
college, But that's how I really acknowledged the call, and very grateful that I did. Very grateful.
Okay. And looking over that journey, from that time where you locked yourself in your room in at your sister's house, and how was that for you mentally, looking over that journey from that beginning process to where you are right now? Is there any part of that that stands out to you the most, and why?
Absolutely, because what I was searching for was a conviction. I believe that anytime you're seeking God for something, confirmation, purpose, answers, whatever it may be, God will always give you a conviction concerning a yay or a nay. And so I was in a place, really hadn't studied much on fasting, really didn't know much about that, but I knew what I felt in my heart. I didn't want to play with it, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
of course.
Ministry is something serious.
Mhm.
So I was already young, and I did not want to take a chance and gamble on something that I felt was God and miss God. So
Ooh.
I was looking for a conviction, something that assured me without a shadow of a doubt that it was the voice of God.
Mm. Okay. How easy is it to miss what God is telling you?
That's a great question, Jazz. To be honest, it is easy if, especially I should say, if our emotions are in the way. Even myself, if I could have a moment of transparency, I've missed him, in seeking him and decision making, as well. You have to get in a place of spiritual insight to truly be able to know that it is God. If not, your emotions will mislead you every time. Every time.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Emotions are so fickle.
Yeah, the songwriter said emotions make you cry sometimes.
Man, won't it?
Anytime when we act
Listen.
out of those emotions, they'll make
Yes.
you, they'll make us miss God. They will. Yeah,
Absolutely, that is so true. So many people that saying, "I wear my heart on my sleeve." That's your that you wear your when your emotions are outside of you and you walk around looking like, happy, sad, depressed, anxiety, fear. When people see that, the enemy will gravitate towards that. But here's what people don't understand: when you're in a rut and going through so much and so many trials and tribulations, the enemy has you exactly where he wants you. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And we allow our emotions to give him the control and power over us. But when we come out of those emotions and start making and imparting wisdom in the situations that we're in and looking at it from a wise perspective, we can change and see the greater outlook in regarding to what God has for us on the other side of what we're going through, and
Yeah,
not allow what we're feeling to overtake what God is trying to show us.
Absolutely.
And when going through that process, when you're faced with that challenge and something is causing you that fear that makes you want to just stop and lock and in that place where you are right now, what is your go-to regimen or routine that you go to combat that mindset? What do you go to for that?
Um, Biblically, we understand that we're always at odds with our flesh. That's the part of human design, human nature. So when you're in a locked space or trying to decipher, when you're trying to hear from God, I know that it's time to fast. I know that it is time to turn the plate down. It's time to, and fasting is not always just the equivalent of food, but turning
I was
down those
about to get
things,
into that.
you know,
Yeah, go ahead.
turning down those things that are Facebook, social media, the phone, things of that nature is what I do. I've learned to lock into a space privately with God, so that I can hear his heart, hear his mouth, during those seasons of my life.
Mm. And okay, so why is it important to understand the different aspects of fasting? Like you just said, so many people think is you have to just fast from food. Why is it important to understand and recognize when food may not necessarily be the problem that you need to be fasting from?
That's a good question. I believe what has happened is the misnomer behind fasting is when you only look at it like, well, I ain't gonna eat bread or sweets. That well, you're really on a diet. That's what you're doing. You're really losing weight, because it goes
Amen.
back to what is my purpose behind this. We
Mm.
don't fast to lose weight. We fast to hear from God. We fast to be in tune with what he's saying to us in that season. And we understand that there are some moves in our life. Even the Bible, when Jesus was talking to those who had witnessed him work a miracle, he said, these kind only take place through fasting and prayer. So what happens is fasting allows us to tune out distractions. If I know that I spend a certain amount of time on Facebook or Instagram, this is my go-to, this is what I'm doing all day with my thumbs, then that means I'm not in a proper place to hear from God. So when I'm in a place of fasting, I say I'm getting off of social media for 30 days, then my submission, here it is, and I am denying my flesh the access to a thing so that my spirit man can be filled. Because that's the objective. We have to die to flesh so that our spirit can be filled. And that happens when we eliminate those distractions.
Y'all heard him revving up over there.
No, don't do that.
Listen, listen. My, sir. Exactly, Miss Cut. Like, if look, let me tell you something. Um, I told y'all in the beginning. I hope y'all are ready for this here tonight. We ain't gonna be on here long. Look, I'm just like you say in church. I ain't gonna hold you too long. All right. We gonna do our best not to, but you don't know how it gonna move tonight. All right.
Amen. Amen.
So in going through that, because you said something so vital. People think that, their distractions are always in one area, but that's because they like to hold on to that security blanket that gives them that comfort. And
Absolutely.
it may not necessarily be food, because you can be a health nut and be distracted by men or women or shoes or bags or jewelry, shopping. You can be distracted by so many things, and God is trying to get your attention. He's talking to you, but you're not paying attention because you're distracted by what you want. You're distracted by what your flesh is hungry for. So, how do you die to your flesh? Explain. Can you break that down? Because I know we've heard that so long in our lives as growing up, and I was like, well, how do you die to your flesh? Like, am I supposed to die every day and like come back? What does that? You know what I mean? As
Hey,
a kid, we misinterpret so many things that our parents and grandparents and pastors And, church leaders may have taught or tried to teach us biblically, and we misinterpret it naturally
Right.
because we don't understand it spiritually. So, how is it that someone can get an understanding of something that they really can't grasp of what it means? I hope I'm asking that in a way you can break that down.
Right. I got you. So what I've discovered is we have a civil war that's going on internally. And we know that a civil war is basically a falling out between two entities in the same area.
Mhm.
So in our life, humanistically, we have our flesh, we have our spirit. They both seek to be satisfied. Your flesh desires, like you said, maybe you just like handbags, or me personally, I remember Apple did an update one time and it began to show you each week what your screen time was. It would show you how much time you've spent on certain apps. And I had a wake up call one day when I woke up and I seen how many hours I was spending on social media. I was like, man, this is way too much time. And especially when it's like, okay, I could be studying now. And I'm not even just putting it on a spiritual level, even with your job, even with your schooling. How many times do we allow those things to distract us, pull us away from things that we should prioritize? So when you talk about killing the flesh, we want to kill those things that pull us, here it is, away from God. Yeah, because no good deed comes out of this flesh. We have to kill those things that pull us away from God so that we can hear from him. If I know now, if you sitting there eating all day and you can't hear because you full of greens and pork chop and all of that, then yeah, you may do need to turn down your food as well. But if you're sitting here spending 10 and 12 hours a day on Facebook, then we already know what the distraction is. We need to get off this app and lay, watch this, at the face and at the feet of God in a posture that we can truly hear from him. So to die daily means, God, I want to eliminate things that are a part of my life that keep me, watch this, from spending more time with you, because that's what it's about. Some of our frustration, some of our agitation that we're feeling has nothing to do with high blood pressure. It has nothing to do with sickness. It has nothing to even really do with stress, but it has a lot to do with your spirit saying, I'm hungry. Woo.
Mm.
It has a lot to do with your spirit saying, feed me. Your flesh is full. It done had all it want. We done been on apps and did all of that, but there's a part of you that is seeking some. Snickers said it best. Snickers said, you're not yourself when you're hungry. So your spirit starts to desire the things of God. And because we're not in tune spiritually, we equate that desire. I'm just frustrated with life. I'm just agitated with this place I'm in. I don't know what I'm going to do. No, that's your cue to get in tune spiritually. Deny that flesh the chance to continue to be fed and really seek the face of God. I tell people all the time, if you can get into the face of God, you'll get everything his hands has for your life.
Mm. You better come on here and talk good. Look. You hear the missus? Missus says you better talk good, sir. How you doing, Mrs. Holloway? Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight. Listen, I hope you all that are tuning in. We are getting so many comments here. Um, you know, you bringing you. Like I told y'all, I had to go home. Now,
No,
so
no.
I had to go home. What is the difference between your purpose when you first started your journey versus what your purpose is now on your journey?
Oh, that's a good question. If I could be totally honest with you, starting out, an 18-year-old young man, walking into ministry, my honest answer, I had no clue what my purpose was.
Mm.
Not as it relates to ministry. I had no clue. I'm still trying to, at the time, obtain a degree at Albany State. I didn't know. I didn't know how I was going to balance all of this. None of that. But what I did was I had to learn how to really study what God had called me to be. Knowing that He had said I was going to preach His word, I knew that that meant more than just getting up on Sundays or taking the scripture and trying to get a response from people. It took so much more to that. So with that came, here it is, failures. With that came letdowns. With that came what I would like to call growing pains that really introduced me to the purpose of ministry that I felt that God was calling me into to maintain. So it took a process. I think purpose is not defined until one has really endured a process to discover what it is that makes them want to get up every day, what it is that makes them feel like they're accomplishing something without feeling like you're working at it. You know what I mean? Because purpose will make you smile. Purpose puts a fire in you and you don't mind doing it, whether that be your business, whether that be counseling, whether that be preaching. Because here it is, because you walk in ministry, it does not mean that ministry is the only purpose that you will have to walk in. I think that's a uniqueness about God, that He will allow us to serve in ministry, whether you have a title or whatever, but He'll allow you to serve in ministry, but yet He'll give you purpose to start your own business. He'll give you purpose to be that counseling agency or whatever it is that your heart so desires. So I hope
Okay. And just a clarifying question on that, when you say God will allow you to walk into your ministry but give you purpose in different areas, does that necessarily mean your ministry has to be in the pulpit?
absolutely. Now you've opened up a door there, because I believe that that's where good mentorship, a good covering, really will come into place. Because I do feel that sometimes when we first begin to feel the tug of God on our life, and we know that something is happening in our life, like, man, I'm reading my Bible more, I'm going to church, I'm feeling something, tears falling, and I worshiping God. We go through a season where we feel a tug of Him. And many of us at that point, the first thing that we do is say, I've been called to preach.
Oh,
That's the first thing we will say, when God can actually be saying, I call you to get closer to you. I call you to develop you. I call you. And then there are separate forms of ministry. You may be hospitality. You may be great with people. You know how to usher people in. You may be great with clerical skills. So in ministry, you may serve as a secretary. There are different things. The pulpit doesn't equate to ministry. Ministry is actually done more so beyond the pulpit. Yeah.
man, say that again, sir. I know that's right. And and if I'm and since we being honest and transparent, okay. I was one of those, people. I went to church and got my first little shout, and I'm just, I'm feeling it, and I'm like, started having dreams. I'm standing in a pulpit and I'm preaching. No, 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 no. I was like, okay, now don't do that. Don't do that, because that's not what we finna do. That's not my story, okay? How is it that you can tell, what would you say to that person that is in that position, that is having these feelings and these emotions or these dreams and or these visions that, okay, God called me to speak, or God called me to preach, or God called me to open up a church? What would you say to that person that is having those moments, being you having those moments yourself? How would you tell them to, pump your brakes, and what would you tell them in that process?
You're gonna get me in trouble. Not so much that I would tell them to pump their brake, but I would tell them to seek wise counsel.
Hmm.
I remember at the time, um, when I was getting ready to go into ministry, my home church had just went through a transition. So we were without pastor at the time.
Mhm.
And at that time, I reached out, and Pastor, or Bishop elect now, George Edge, he came in and he took on that role for me and walked me through that process. And here it is. He ensured that it was not Horace that wanted to preach, but that God had put this mandate on me to walk into that calling. So I would tell the person that feels like they're being urged, or they feel that tug in their spirit and in their heart to do something, I would tell them to seek their leader. Get with your leader and pray. I told you what I did. I'm serious, I asked for a specific sound in the projects of Leslie, Georgia. I never forget it. And when I got it, the very next day, I asked for it again, because I just didn't want to take a chance and do something without, watch this, God's backing.
Mm,
Yeah. So
mm. Walking into a door and God ain't tell you to get in there.
that's a dangerous place, because you're going to have to work extra hard to stay there, and
Right.
that's hard. That's hard. So
And not only working hard to stay there, but also working hard to possibly get out as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I would definitely tell them to seek the counsel of their pastor, and submit to them, and let them really give you the tutelage, and walk you through the process of prayer, so that there it is again, that fine line of spirit and emotion, to make sure that what you're hearing and what you're sensing is not just your God just dealing with you, but you want to make sure, okay, what do you want me to do? So I would definitely say seek your leader, seek your covering, to
Mm.
get some wisdom.
Switching it for just a second, okay?
Absolutely.
Just let me take a brief little quick moment. Thank you all so much for everyone that is tuning in. I do have to thank you all for joining us tonight here on National Entrepreneur Month. I am talking to none other than Pastor Horace Holloway, my dear friend from, let me tell you, when I say knee high to a duck, knee
Re-
high to a duck. Okay. Um, I want to, and this is gonna be a little, it's gonna be a little off, and you might get in a little trouble. But being in ministry, um, and I ask this to my entrepreneurs when I'm interviewing them as well. How important is it for you as a pastor, a leader of a church, a congregation, being called to so many people? How important is it for you to know that you can't help everybody?
Ooh. Well, that can be your kryptonite, and that can be your
Hmm.
that can be an issue, because I know as a younger pastor, we have this thing. We want to be approachable. We want to be, we want everybody to feel like they can talk to us. But we have to understand our purpose. Our purpose is not, we can't do it on our own. Our purpose is to point people back to Jesus. Bottom line. Bottom line, through the word of God, we are there to teach you, counsel you, provide resources for particular situations and circumstances. But our ultimate goal, even through the proclamation of the word of the Lord, is to direct you back to Jesus Christ. Because at the end of the day, it is not ourselves who have the power to change, save, to do that. It comes by the Spirit of the Lord working within us. So our job is to point people back to him. And I think what has happened is we've developed, I have something that I had to learn, Jasmine, in another transparent moment here,
Hmm.
is that you can't become too common with the congregation,
Ooh.
because you have to always be in a place and put yourself in a place where you can direct them back to Christ, and they not just look at you like their friend or just another person, because they'll lose a level of respect for you if you're not careful. So I believe we just
Mm.
supposed to point them back to Christ.
Now, you said something. I want to tap in on that. Okay, I hope you don't mind, because I like to tap and dig a little bit. Being a minister and being where you can't show yourself like, oh, this my home girl, this my homeboy, this is my congregation. I'm the pastor of this church. Where do you feel you have to draw the line to not be so friendly and not cross that border? Where do you cut that off?
You have to understand your role as the shepherd. A shepherd job is to lead. It is also to correct. It is also to rebuke at times, to build up. So what happens is there's nothing wrong. Now we are to love everyone that's in our congregation, and me myself, I try to make myself available to my congregation and their needs. However, I am always apt to tell them that this is not Pastor Holloway. Let me show you what the word of the Lord says, and then being coming means this. When you draw people through the word of the Lord and through the spirit of the Lord, it is not your homie. I think that's what happens a lot of times. There's nothing wrong with us having a great relationship. I laugh with my congregants all the time. I might throw a
Mm-hmm.
joke, or we talk about the football game, or whatever.
Right.
However, they understand that this is pastor. This is our leader. That doesn't mean that I have to go out and have dinner with them, or we got to be quote unquote Betsy's and all of that. Because I do believe this: you don't want to open a door of momentum that you can't maintain, or if
Ooh.
anything that you start, if it's going to cause you to compromise in your area of leadership, you may want to rethink that. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, this next question, I hope you don't mind, because we got Mrs. Holloway on here. Okay,
Okay.
being a pastor, being a full-time husband and a full-time dad, how do you maintain that balance? And also then you incorporate being in school, other responsibilities within your fraternity, within your, well, multiple fraternities, let me say that, and being a pastor and doing different things in your life. How do you maintain that work life, congregation, church, different aspects? How do you maintain that balance?
Oh,
She said, "Ooh."
well, to be totally honest with you, priority.
Mm,
I have been, since we're being transparent, I have been there in which I did not always have priorities in the right place. It was always, man, I gotta go to church. I gotta go see by A, B, C, and D.
right.
When it goes back to the biblical principle that God ordained family, and family is first ministry. So I had to mature to learn that, because being a young minister out of the gate, you up here trying to preach every time the door is open, and you're trying to build your and get out there, and then you got a family that's suffering, and that's why so many PKs, they hate church. It ain't because they had to go all the time. It's just because they didn't really have time with dad, because he wanted to preach all the time. So
Right.
I had to learn and to grow into the fact to say to some engagement, no, I can't do that. Or listen, I'm taking this week off because I need to spend some time with my family, or and that type of thing. And it's not easy. I'm not trying to make it seem like I get it right all the time now, because I don't. But it's not easy. But you have to prioritize those things, and take them 15 to 30 minutes and get outside and shoot basketball with your son, or do some little thing like shoot your wife a cash app and pay for dreadlocks, hint hint, things like that. Spend some time, let your daughters paint your fingernails in the recliner. Those things, all those small means so much to those that are in your circle. So
Yeah.
you have to do it. You if it, and I'll be honest with you, your ministry that you're called to spiritually will only blossom as much as your primary ministry, which is your family, does. So if you're taking care of that, then God's hand will be upon your life so that the area of ministry that you're called to, it'll flourish as well. It'll,
Absolutely. And Ms. Holloway says she like Cash App.
yeah, don't remind me.
Plug, go ahead and plug that in real quick. Um, what is your what have you learned being in ministry? What have you learned or gained from the necessary or the moments of failure or the moments that you felt like were failures? What have you learned or gained from those situations?
I thought you said you didn't want to have these people here all night. um, wow. Jasmine, I'll be honest. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned was not to give yourself self-inflicted wounds. Okay,
Ooh.
that there are some stumbling blocks that you're going to encounter that are just a part of maturation. It's part of you growing. It's part of your development. You got to think. I was 18, turned 19 when I preached my first sermon. I mean, that was a part of me that I still want to go stroll, go out, and all of that good stuff. So I had to mature to a place, and a lot of the failures that I had in ministry, some of them were just self-inflicted things that you allow yourself to get in, or you make a bad move here, bad decision there. But here it is, though, to those that are watching who have had failures in life and haven't dotted every I and crossed every T, you still didn't take a loss. You just learned a lesson. Okay, I want to encourage you right there. You did not take a loss. You learned a lesson. Take it from Pastor Holloway. Take it from Horace tonight. We don't have to even put a title on that. Just know that you learned. And that was the biggest thing for me, Jasmine. I learned in the darkest season of my life when I was preaching to people, but I was bleeding on them. I was preaching to people,
Ooh.
but I had just cried a whole hour before I came out of my office. I was leading people, but didn't know how to face my own issues and struggles. And yet, it was in those moments that when you come out of that, when you survive those dark seasons, man, that's why my praise hit an all-time high. That's why I'm not really even concerned about my past anymore and what folks throw up. When you have really been, I feel something crawling on my right side.
Come
When you
on,
have
sir.
truly been through stuff and you've been brought out and you've been delivered, listen, you ain't seen nothing yet. For those of you that are watching now, you might be in a dark season. Please take it from me. You are going to survive. Even those self-inflicted wounds. That was a time in my life. I don't share this often, but I was ready to give up on life. I had failed. I was like, God, I'm tired. I don't want to preach no more. I was like Jeremiah. I was like, I ain't gonna make mention of his name. I was over it because I felt like my place of failure. Here it is for 5 of you that's watching. My place of failure had become an identity for me. Okay. Do not allow your place of failure to become an identity for you. You are not that place. You are not what happened. You are not that individual. You have to take ownership. Hear me now. Take ownership. Don't deny it happened. If it was your fault, accept it. If it was their fault, accept it. Take ownership. Gird up your loins and let the joy of the Lord be your strength. I feel the presence of the Lord. Let the joy of the Lord be your strength. You will rebound. I can assure you that. Pastor Holloway, now you done open up a can. We can be here tomorrow talking about coming through failures. But I had to learn. And one of the things about failure, you don't have to repeat it. Once you have learned it, and you can be able to recognize it, you'll see it a mile away. No, I already see what's going on there. I'm not falling into this trap. I'm not entertaining this negativity today. I know where this conversation is going. When you get to that point in your faith and in your walk with God, oh man, yeah, you're ready to really see some growth. I'm sorry, but that's how. That's how.
Ooh, sir, don't pull him. Let him stay out here, Miss Jones. It's the. Let me tell you something. That was some deliverance right there.
Yeah.
Listen to me. We often sit in the position and we carry failure as, like you said, your identity. I am labeled as a failure.
Yeah.
My mama told me I ain't gonna never be nothing. My mama told me I'm just like my daddy. My daddy told me I'm just like my mama, and you ain't gonna never amount to nothing. And we own those sayings. We own the ghost of somebody else's history. And we put their burdens and we carry it like they're our crosses. That's not your job. That's not your place. And that's not your responsibility.
Absolutely.
It says in the book, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I
Yeah.
knew you.
He knew us.
He
Yeah.
knew who he created you to be.
Absolutely.
You have to gravitate and understand who he is, who he called you to be, and who you belong to. Because who they told you, that's not your identity. Who they called you, that's not your name.
Yeah.
That's not what God chose you to be. That's
Absolutely.
not what God created you to be. He created you to be, they give these affirmations and they make it seem like they're so mundane, but that above and not beneath, the lender and not the borrower,
Yeah.
the head and not the tail. That's book. That's Bible right there.
That's Bible. Yeah.
That's Bible. Get in your book and know who he created you to be.
Absolutely.
Understand that your purpose is not meant to be last. You will
Absolutely.
always be first because God called you to be first. We adapt the sense and the capability to be last because that's what we're used to. I grew up in a poor neighborhood of DeSoto, Georgia, population of 200 people. So that means I can't be on Facebook looking, how I look, interviewing anybody, talking to anyone. I can't stand on stages where Ian Van Zant has. I can't stand on stages where other speakers have. Eric Thomas. I'm not supposed to do that because I'm from DeSoto, Georgia. But what you don't understand is we have a calling on our lives that
Yeah.
we are who God called us to be. I'm not called to be less than because
Right.
that's not my position.
Right.
I'm not called to be, I may not be called to be a pastor, but I bet you I can help someone understand the importance on what loving you means. I
Absolutely.
love me the way God told me to love me because that's my ministry. You see what I
Absolutely.
mean? When
Absolutely.
you understand what your ministry is, and you know that what may not have worked then is not a failure, it was God protecting you
Come
from
on.
being and from getting into something that He ain't told you to get in no way. That wasn't what I wanted you to do. That wasn't the journey I wanted you to go on. You took a detour
Come
from
on.
the GPS directions that I gave you. That wasn't the direction I told you to go. I told you to go right. You took a left and then you took a short left. I told you to go the long way, but you
Absolutely.
wanted to take a shortcut. So now I'm going to make you wait just a little bit longer. That's
Absolutely.
why you can't take those failures as moments of I'll never amount to anything. Anything that I touch always fail. You have to be mindful of what you say
Come
because
on.
life and death lies in the power of the tongue. And when you speak death over yourself, you will walk around in a living coffin
Yes. Yes.
forever.
Yes. Because here's the thing about failure. We have to remember this. Failure appears definite for a season.
Ooh.
Failure seems definite for a season, for a moment. Watch this. You will feel like you're in the worst place in your life. I was there. Dark, didn't want to reach out to nobody, didn't even want to tell nobody, shame, embarrassed, in a hole in my own cave of a doodle. But I'm telling you now, when you understand that failure is not final. I need somebody to hear that. Failure is not final. Everything that you have went through in your life that appeared to be a place of failure was a place to build faith and strengthen relationship. Every place that I've been through that seemed as failure to me, when I truly allowed the Spirit to lead me through it, it turned into a place of faith building and to a place of strengthening my relationship. I just want to encourage those that are watching this, because I just feel like some of us are there. We've been there where we felt like what we done, what we encountered was our final straw. Oh, ain't nobody gonna believe in me now. Ain't nobody gonna accept me now. Ain't nobody gonna want to hear me now. And let me tell you something. There are some great people on here. I've seen some people on here from Boston, Georgia. God allowed me to pastor my first church in a small area. Boston, Georgia looks just like DeSoto. And there's some awesome people right there in Boston, Georgia. When you look at DeSoto, Georgia, small town, I'm proud of my hometown. When people ask me where I'm not from Americas. I'm from
I'm from the
DeSoto,
soul
Georgia.
of
And
Georgia.
the reason why I say that is because God has blessed so many awesome people to come from small backgrounds. And the failures that you experience along the way, you have to understand, God, what did I learn? Now, if you didn't learn, we may have a problem. But failures are teaching moments for us to learn and to develop. Y'all, I don't know. I feel something on this line tonight for real. I just want you to know it's not final. I promise you, it is not. It's not final. I just want people to know, whatever you seek to do, you're gonna have a season that failure creeps in, and it'll make you feel like, okay, this is it. Come on, we know the story of Job. I mean, we could just look at chapter number 1, when he lost his children, his cattle, his oxen. Okay, then he goes through a period where he has to deal with friends who come in and say, man, you've angered God to cause all of this. His wife tells him, man, curse God and die, But Job, in all of that, what he thought could have been a failure, I feel something, when he really could have threw in the towel and simply said, you know what, maybe they right. Maybe even at the point when, Lord have mercy, even
Come
at the
on,
point when
sir.
he was ready to accept death, he had a conversation in his prayer, and he said, if a man die, shall he live again? He said, in all of my appointed time, I'm gonna wait until my change comes. What happens is this: failure is not a season for you to die. Failure is a time of expectation for your appointment for change. I say that again. Failure is not the season to die, but it is the season to recognize I got expectation that something is getting ready to change in my life. Yes, Lord, I didn't just go through this just to ball up now and throw in the towel. I didn't write these business ideas 5 and 10 years ago, never to look at them again. Sure, you might didn't have the backing then. Sure, maybe the bank said no then. Oh, but I'm walking away with expectation that I have an appointment with better. I just want to tell about 15 people that tonight that's watching, that you have an appointment with better. Don't allow failure to finalize your death sentence, but we know that failure is an opportunity for us. In the book of Micah, Micah, I believe it is, the prophet, he was in a place where he tells his enemies, he says, don't rejoice over me because I'm down. Yeah, Lord. He said, don't rejoice over me because I'm down. He says, because I will rise again. I just want to tell somebody, resurrection don't just happen at Easter.
Woo!
It don't just happen at Easter. It don't just happen on Resurrection Sunday when we celebrate it, but God is resurrecting us even now. Uh, yes, Lord.
Sir, you can't pipe that up there and throw ice on that. You can't do that.
I fear God on this. Lord have mercy.
Oh my God. My God. Let me tell you something. Listen to me. For those of you that are watching, um, I hope you are sharing. I hope you are tagging, because there is someone that is in need of this tonight, maybe tomorrow or the day after that. Tag them in this live. now. Okay, because they going in on these comments. They they are going in. We have to understand and recognize that God called us for greater. Failure does not mean it's final. You can no longer sit at the stop sign waiting for it to turn green, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. God did not place a stop sign in your life. He told you to yield. He told you to pause for a little bit, but you have the green light to go.
Amen.
You have the green light to get to your greater. Don't allow what the situation looks like right now to keep you bound, locked in a corner, stuck and submit to your feet. Keep them shackles on your feet. Break those chains, break those shackles. Start chiseling out that cement and
Absolutely.
get your feet to moving in the direction that God is calling you to go in. And like Horace said earlier, if you don't know where God is calling you, if you can't hear his voice, that means you're distracted. Look at those things that you're going towards. If you wake up in the morning and the first thing you grab is this right here, and you get on social media, if you're on Facebook right now and you ain't spent no time with God yet, spend that intimate time with him. Let
Absolutely.
that be the first person that you talk to in the morning. I don't care if it's good morning, how you doing, thank you for waking me up this morning. Let that be the first thing that you do. When you wake up in the, you don't even have to, your feet don't even have to touch the floor. Your conversation with God needs to start. Before you roll over and kiss your spouse, God should have already heard you say good morning.
Absolutely.
So my next question for you is, in this season in your life, starting from early on, knowing the calling that God had for you in ministry, who has been your biggest mentor, alive or gone?
Whew. Um, I have a few. One, first of all, would be my dad. My dad was my ultimate mentor. He served as the chairman at Zion Hill, but I saw so much more. I never seen anyone put so much study time into Sunday school, and literally turn Sunday school into a church service. So he was my mentor, and I really thank God for him because. He did get a chance to see me start pastoring my first pastorate in Boston, Georgia, before he transitioned. And, you know, he instilled a lot in me. Now, there are times I just wish I could just call him a little bit and just kind of get some advice from him. But he is definitely number one. And then when I was 13 years old, I got saved for real under the pastorate at the time of Pastor George Edge. He came, he was serving as our youth pastor at the time. And then, of course, he became our pastor. I got saved under him. I remember when I walked up there to give him my hand, I could see the fire of God in his eyes. He has been a continued influence in my life. Even in our family's life, he's been a great resource. And then, of course, my covering that I have now, none other than Bishop J. Nathan Page. He is my spiritual father. He is definitely, his hands were on my life, even at Zion Hill, as he served as pastor as well. He developed my musicality. He's one that I would say I even patterned sometime my sermon structure, and I watched him to try to learn how to put and piece it together. Those are immediate, I would say, mentors that have really just blessed my life. I have a friend, Lonnie Robinson, in Thomasville, Georgia, great man of God, can sing. Oh my God, he should be somewhere in New York singing in the opera house, because that man has a gift. But he stuck with me during that time. I didn't know anybody in Thomasville like that, but he became a true friend and brother. And to this day, he still checks on my family and I. We still have great dialogue. So many people, I hate to have to really name them, but so many people have been influential in my growth and development. And I want to just pause and encourage somebody that's in ministry, if you're in business, whatever it is, get you a mentor and a covering. Okay. I was so ignorant to what that meant when I first got into ministry. And I shared this with my aunt, that I truly believe that if I had understood, the value of true covering and mentorship in my infantry of ministry, I would have avoided several mistakes and letdowns that I had. So I would encourage anybody, I don't care if it's entrepreneurship, get somebody that can pour into you, correct you, build you up, and they're going to do it pure in heart without any motive.
Mm. And my last and final question for this evening, before I ask this, I want to um thank again everyone for tuning in. So my last question for you is, in overcoming, your trials in life and walking into ministry, for that person that may be on that same journey that you were as an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, 36-year-old, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to that person that is looking to overcome their trials, or and just having a tough time with trying to see their way out? What is that one piece of advice you would give that person?
You're not at the end of your rope. You're not at the end. Um, in my darkest season, I haven't shared this story openly too often, but in my darkest season, I remember where I was. I faced depression, and I was really at the point of suicide. Um, I remember um, I had wrote letters to my wife, and at the time my two children. I had wrote them letters. I was done with life. At the time, dealing with a lot of pressure, your name being thrown everywhere. You got lies, and then you got truth and lies mixed together. So you got everything just kind of going out there, and you don't really know, which direction to turn. But people still looking at you as pastor, and you're trying to carry and manage such a load of weight, until it became unbearable for me. And I never forget going to um, this lake in Thomasville, Georgia. I'll never forget it. Going to the lake, I had supposed to have been going to work, okay, and I went out to the lake with an intention I felt to end life, and I remember sitting there in the car, and at the moment that I had decided that this was it, gun out, ready to do that, my phone rang, Jasmine, and the Lord is my witness. My phone rang, and the person on the other end of that line, he spoke to me, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I lied. I'm like, I'm headed to work. And the Spirit of the Lord spoke to him. He's a true prophet of God, and he said, "No, you're not." He said, "The Lord said that's not His will concerning your life. What you're getting ready to do is not His will." And he said these words to me, and this is what I'll leave on that question. He said, "There's still life left." Okay, so I think about this man in the Bible that we hear this story told when he was robbed, beat, stripped of his clothing, and he was left on the side of the road. And the Bible says he was left half dead. Church officials passed him by. Okay, church officials passed him by. They looked over him. Okay, oh, good old Samaritan comes along and takes him and restores his health, and then takes him to an hotel, puts him up, tells the hotel maid, hey, I'm going to cover his fare, okay, until he recovers, okay? Okay, that teaches us this. When you're in your dark moment, the reason you got to understand that it's not the end, because God will always send someone in your life who will cover you until you recover. Okay, they paid his fare and said, look, if he racks up the bill, I pay some more. But here's the shot about that, which sticks to me this day. And I know I got personal with that, but I want to help somebody, because the truth of the matter is, behind a lot of our smiles and our nice clothing, we have some deep thoughts that needs to be addressed. So what happened was, I learned from that text, and I love when the Lord allows me to preach it. I learned from that text that everything that he went through, he was stripped, he was robbed, he was beaten, and he was left half dead. What keeps me going even now when I have dark moments or have bad seasons in life is that the enemy that tried to kill you, he was a coward and couldn't finish the job. The Bible says he was left half dead. I want to help somebody tonight on this live as we get ready to close out, to let you know the enemy made the biggest mistake that he could have did when he left you with just a little bit of life. I want to tell you now, if you can just take your hand, I feel the glory of God, and put it in front of your face and just breathe right now. I don't care how bad life looks right now. I don't care what the enemy has whispered in your ear concerning your life, your finances, your future, or your family. I want to encourage you. If you just felt the breath that you blow in front of you on your hand, that means you got enough life in you to live. And the Bible says that God says he came that we might have life, and have life more abundantly. I challenge you the rest of this year. You got about a month and a half to live. Make up in your mind that you're getting ready to live to see the best days of your life. This ain't the end of the road. You're going to see all of God's promises made manifest in your life. Jasmine, I want to just personally thank you too for having me on such a platform. And I want to just speak into your life very briefly, and just let you know that your faith has really opened bigger doors for you than you can imagine. Okay. There are some doors that are going to open for you sooner than later because of how hard and how diligent you work. Faith works when stuff that we do don't work. Okay, let me see if I can get that clear for you. Sometimes we have to pause and we halt our dream because we feel like faith, we feel like we're not accomplishing anything. We feel like it ain't taking off the way that we want to. But faith requires you to put in that extra work. Yes, Lord. Even in the season that it seems like stuff ain't thriving. So I just want to encourage you through the Spirit of the Lord to let you know that there are some great things that are going to be coming from Life Tips by Jazz. You keep encouraging people and walking to your purpose. You're doing a great job, and I salute you not only as a friend, not only as my classmate, but as my sister. I love you dearly, and I am very proud of the woman that God has made you to be in your life. God bless you is my prayer.
Before I start crying on here, y'all, thank you, thank you so much for, first of all, your time, because you could have been spending time with your family, spending time preparing for, for work, for school, anything. Thank you so much for being a part of National Entrepreneur Month with me. You have no idea how much this means to me. Um, you keep being such a blessing to so many people. I love love you dearly. You
Thank you.
know that, we have a very close friendship, from long ago. Jonah, she's on here. Hey, Miss Jonah,
Hey,
thank you
classmate.
so much for tuning in, classmate. Lakeitha Preston, thank you so much for tuning in as
Wow.
well. And so many people, Miss Diana, Auntie, thank you so much for
Oh, wow.
tuning in. Man, listen, tonight was amazing for everyone that tuned in. I hope and pray. Also the Millers, Timothy Miller from Boston, he tuned in as well. He wanted to send his
Wow.
love.
Love you
So,
guys. Tim, thank you.
and he was also saying that they're currently reading the book of Job right now as
Oh,
well. So
wow.
you kind of hit on a lot for him also. It was so many eye-opening moments tonight. I am so thankful and glad that I paid attention and I wasn't distracted and I heard God speak to me. When he speaks, it's getting to the point to where when I hear him, I move.
That's right.
Normally I would sit on and I'd be like, I don't know who that is. That could be the devil. No, that ain't God. But now, when you know how to remove distractions and really hear when he's talking to you, everything is so much clearer. It is so much clearer. So thank you for allowing us to be graced with your wisdom, to be graced with your presence, just to be graced with your knowledge and your words. How can everybody follow you on social media? Let us know where your church is located, anything that you want to leave as your closing remarks. If for anyone that may want to follow you after this live, okay?
Okay. First off, let me just thank my wife and my kid. They tuned in, supportive. I gotta give a shout out because man, the Holloway household be like I-75 sometimes. Like we be coming and going 100 miles an hour. So I want to thank them for their push support. I see a few of my church members on. Thank you guys so much for being on. People that are connected to me through the years, through ministry. I want to thank them. But I'm just Horace Holloway the third right here on Facebook. Of course, I'm on Instagram as I believe is Pastor Horace Holloway or something like that. To be honest, but I just want to tell everybody just to encourage. I pastor here in Americus, Georgia, at Zion Hope Baptist Church, right here on 19. You can't miss it. We sit between Americus and Smithville, Georgia. If you want to put it that way, in a little town they call Sumter City. But God is doing amazing things. I'm grateful for the people here and their willingness to grow and allow God to take us to a new dimension in Him. So, again, thank you all for your support tonight. I really love you all and I appreciate your prayers. And I ask that you continue to pray for us, with us. And I believe that God is truly going to blow our mind. We are surviving pandemic. We're still living. And that's just a sign that his hands are still upon our lives. So Jasmine, again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
You are so welcome. And for those of you all that would like to follow him on Instagram, his Instagram handle is at Pastor H3. So make sure, I had to go plug that. Make sure you all follow him here on social media. He is always in. If you hear, like you just said, your house is I-75, you hear that 2-year-old back there slamming that door. There you go. So make sure you all follow him on social media here on Facebook and also on Instagram. Tune into him. He also goes live sometimes when with his sermons, or if he's at different events and speaking at different churches, they may also go live as well. So make sure when you see him, you follow him. If you have anything going on with your church and you're looking for a dynamic man of God to
Oh,
bring the word to your house, depending on where you at now. Okay, depending on where you at, make sure you check him out. Make sure you send him a message, get with him to invite him to your congregation. I promise you, you will not miss God when he's in the room. All right, and if you do, that means you were distracted. All right. So thank you all so much for tuning in here on National Entrepreneur Month Show. I am yours truly, Jasmine D. Millhouse. You all just seen this dynamic man of God, Mr. Horace Holloway, Pastor Horace Holloway, right here on Facebook. Thank you all so much again for tuning in. And I hope to see you all back here tomorrow night for my next interview right here on National Entrepreneur Month. You all enjoy the rest of your Monday and good night, everybody.
Peace and blessings.
Peace.